I cannot remember a time that I didn't sleep, breathe, and dream of horses. I rode for hours across many fields at full speed, in my mind, of course. Growing up in the city, my family did not know how I inherited this passion. But with every birthday passing, my affinity for the horse grew stronger. Finally, at 13, my dad believed that this was not going to go away, and he would allow me the chance to prove my dedication and devotion to owning a horse. Whisket, a little scruffy horse, had come into my life, and the world as I knew it could be was opened up to me. She was a wild little mare, and I soon realized I needed some help learning how to train her. My longtime mentor, Vern Nathan, came alongside me and taught me the equine language, and that being a horsewoman was a lifestyle that would bleed through all areas of my life.
Good job.
I spent my teenage years riding with my friends along the riverbeds, going through the Del Taco drive-thrus, riding double on the busy streets. As I grew into an adult, my horses came with me wherever I went. At 30 years old, my dad, and my greatest supporter, passed away suddenly, leaving me with only his words and love that echoed in the distance. I tried to remember each word spoken, but over time, it was who I became that revealed the incredible relationship I had with him. When he passed away, he left me with an inheritance that would change my life. I watched other family members spend their money, but for me, it was about building a ship that would sail my dreams. I was drawn to the beautiful Menifee Valley in Southern California. This area, at one time, was inhabited by the Luiseño Indians. I could feel the energy left behind of such hard-working, brave people. I would ride my horse by this particular location. The rocks that bordered the property drew my soul to them. It was as if I would feel inspired every time I rode by. One day as I was riding by, I saw a for sale sign. This is when I knew that opportunity had met preparation. I would make my dad proud by doing something honorable with the money passed down from my hard-working family. As I snuck through the gate of the 12 acres, I felt like I went into a whole new world. I could suddenly see kids riding everywhere, a place for horses to live out their day in safety and peace while teaching kids this incredible language. The property had laid barren for 7 years before I purchased it. The trees were withered, the land was a blank canvas, filled with trash and rubble. Many of my friends could not see what I could see. All they could see was the work that needed to be done. I saw the vision, and that's what I held on to with each mess I cleaned up. As the property began to show life, a strange thing began to happen. Kids, yes kids, all over the valley began to show up, pop in, and wonder when I was starting lessons. I kept telling them to come back in maybe a year because, of course, all I began to see was the rubble. But they saw the vision. Their hearts were open to it because they believed. My spirit of adventure and the pure childlike heart drew them to me. And so it began, the Wagon Wheel Ranch. For the next 7 years, the Wagon Wheel Ranch would become a pillar in the community. The young girls all over the valley now could have a place to live their dream of being with horses. I have to admit, I learned as I went, but I never knew that the dream would make such an impact on so many lives. Many horses were donated to our riding program, but many had very serious injuries, arthritis, and poor foot care that had left them in pain for years. They would show up, many limping right out of the trailer. All I could see was their hearts. They had paid their dues and had been faithful steeds, performing for years, only to end up at the end with no use. In enters my herald, my dear friend and devoted horseshoer. When I received my first lesson horse, I could not say no, even though he was deemed useless to ever be ridden. This was the first job that my farrier and I did together. I had never seen a horse in such bad shape. I asked him if he thought there was any hope. As the sun beat down on his back, he bent over for what seemed like eternity, slowly whittling away at the disfigured hoof. When he finished, he said, "Okay, let's see how he walks." To my amazement, Cody walked balanced and sound back to his pen. Cody would end up being the favorite lesson horse over the years, giving many kids confidence and joy. That was the beginning of our relationship. We worked on over 100 horses together. He taking time and expertise for each one, and me slowly rehabilitating their minds and muscles. We teamed up to help many horses have another chance to be brilliant at the end of their lives. Many kids were able to have their dreams come true. I was living my dream. I was changing lives, but something else was changing. I could feel the heaviness begin to take over the valley. The gas prices were rising. The hay for horses began to rise in price, and people were losing their jobs everywhere. The first thing to go when things get tough are the extras, and riding lessons were the extras. Living so many years at the peak of my dreams, I hadn't noticed the shadows that had begun to creep into the ranch. Negativity, jealousy, and constant complaining started to seep out as I became weaker. Those closest to me, who jumped on board when all was good, now were becoming the shadowing naysayers. They judged my every move and revealed their true loyalty to me. They began to jump ship one by one. They watched from a distance as I loaded up horses for my program, selling off my equipment. I had to make the decision to depart. I decided to rent out the ranch house to try to keep income coming in. I then departed to my mother's home. I didn't realize how much the stress of the ranch was taking its toll on me. At first, coming home to my mother's house felt like such a failure, but I soon realized it was a place of refuge, a place to find myself again, a place to have unconditional love as my foundation, till one day when I thought it could not get any worse, the nightmare began to unravel. I got a call from my ranch manager at the time, frantically telling me to get to the ranch. All she said was, "Killer bees are attacking the horses." I arrived at the ranch. It became crystal clear. We were under attack of over 500,000 Africanized bees. They had laid their claim on 2 of our beloved horses. This tragic event turned the whole community upside down. Who to blame? Of course, I was the target. What was left of my income was wiped out in the first week as everyone ran for the hills. I was now left wondering how I would even be able to feed the remaining horses I had left. Years ago, I owned and operated a mobile pet grooming business and had trained many girls to do the same. We had separated over the 10 years as I was building the ranch and they were continuing to run the grooming business. But when the chips were down, those girls came to my rescue. They held a community fundraiser that helped me to continue to feed the horses and hang on a little longer. You never know who will come to your rescue. Those lives I invested in years ago were there for me with no judgment, just love for who I was. Oh, it was only one, my faithful farrier, who had known my true heart, who'd stayed by my side, always believing that I had something special. Although Walt was a true horseman, His love for the open road was finally being realized. This new life would open my heart to a new way of living. The MC showed me a different kind of love, loyalty, and commitment. A commitment to your brother, no matter how far the chips are down. I jumped on the back of the bike and swore I would never return to the call. As I was selling off the last pieces of equipment on the ranch before I gave it back to the bank, I decided to brave up and call the bank to find out what day they would want the keys. To my surprise, the bank had decided to select a few clients to offer a stay-in package. My heart began to beat again. I felt the call. I had to try. I had to believe. This was my destiny. When I called my mom to tell her of this chance, she reminded me that this was the same day my dad had passed 13 years before. Maybe coincidence, maybe fate. But one thing for sure, I remembered him that day and knew I could not give up. I met a very spiritual woman. She told me something that would bring chills down my spine. She knew nothing of my ranch, and she could see Indians surrounding it. She said they'd watched and saw how hard I'd fought to respect the land given to me. She said they drew me to this land and would protect me and see me through. I soon realized I had a story to tell. How would a backyard cowgirl tell her story? At 43, starting over from scratch, Full Sail University opened my mind and life to possibilities ahead of me. I got in and am now continuing my amazing quest to tell my story. The creativity is flowing again. The pain of events has now given me the dark borders to write with, the empathy to understand man's lot in life, and to cry with joy for new beginnings. My horseshoer turned motorcycle man turned out to be my knight in shining armor. He's become my partner in life. We've come back to the ranch with a new story of our own. Now, the challenge to bring the two worlds together, the old and the new becoming one. I'm learning to live with freedom, free from the pain, and free from the chains that try and hold me back from my quest. With each retelling of the story, I return to the call and I live out my quest.